with the second video showing the new bookmaking templates from Janie's Originals. They come in a pack of 2. This is the A6 one, and this is for roughly an A7. Now, I have my previous video showed how to use this A6 one, and I used grey board to that was pre-cut from Janie, plus a little bit extra for the spine, and I used some paper to cover it, and then we used the spine template for a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. So I am going to come back at some point in the future to this template, because this has so many possibilities. It's just, you can do long stitch, 5-hole pamphlet stitch, chain stitch, French link stitch. It's all sorts. There's just so many possibilities just with that little piece of plastic. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the side because we're going to focus on this. Now, what I also didn't say, I used paper on my previous one. You could use fabric. This worked just as easy for fabric. And again, at some point in the future, when I get a moment, I will make up probably one of the A6 ones with a fabric cover to show you how that works. So when they come to you, let me bring that one back in. You can see that the spine template is separate to the actual book template. When they arrive, though, they're joined. So this one I haven't used yet. This one is still in there. So I'm just going to pop it, literally pops off at either end, like so. There's little pips that hold it on. And so now you've got your spine template and your book making template. So there, yeah, it's probably easy to leave it on there because it is quite clear. So these parts here are for your covers, so 2 covers, and this is for your spine. Okay, now, as I said just now, I did use pre-cut construction board, grey board from Janie for my previous one, but I'm actually going to use or show you how you can cut your own. So I have got, this is a thinner grey board than the one I used, the tumour one I used, but you could use a cereal packet, or you know, thin, you know, the cardboard envelopes that so much arrives in these days. Any of those things will be absolutely sufficient for making a book with this template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, this is just masking tape that I've taken some of the tack off because my low tack tape is somewhere else. What I do want to do is to just, I'm just hitting this bit of plastic here. This is going to do 2 things for me. It's going to hold the template in place, and it's also going to stop that quite thin part from moving when I'm drawing in this part for my cover. Now, you know, I'm doing it sort of in the middle so you can see, but I mean, I might, if I was doing it off camera, put it so it's right in the corner so that I don't actually waste anything. So you can see, I've got that just a little bit over. I'm just drawing around, and I'm just going to then, doesn't matter if this moves, I can move it a little bit further up, and then I'm going to put these on this bit here. It's just so that you can get a nice clean sort of line down here without this little bit of plastic moving around. So down, whoops, and it has already, you see, because I didn't push it down, I had already moved. Okay, so let's take that off. Can you see here, let me bring that up a little bit, where, because I hadn't fixed it down, it just bowed in a little bit rather than the straight line. So that's why I would do that. If you've got low tack tape, it's probably easier than using what I've just done. So then I'm going to cut this. Now, before I go on, in case you haven't seen the previous one, I'm just going to have a quick run through of the things that are essential really for when you want to start making books. You need a knife, and I know Janie and I usually use this knife. I've just not got, I need some new blades for it. So this kind of knife where the end bit will snap off, and then you get another sharp bit. So you need a knife. Okay, you need a metal edged ruler, and where Janie does these, I will, on her website, I will put the links on the description of the video. So a metal edged ruler, important for cutting. A self-healing mat. I have a massive one. Janie does a smaller one, which is amply sufficient. It's just that I like to have a massive one on my desk, so my whole desk is covered. So far we've got a knife, a metal edge ruler, and a self-healing mat. Those are really important for all your cutting purposes. Oops, sorry, that was my drink. Just slightly off camera, which I managed to crash. A bone folder for when you're folding your papers for your signatures, so you get a nice good crease. That's the sort of thing, if you're a paper crafter, you may already have. A bookbinding awl. Now these are really cheap on Janie's website and they are really good. I had a different one before, which I thought was absolutely fine, until it broke at a retreat I was on with Janie, and she showed me this one, and it was like, okay, the other one never really worked nicely. So these are really, really good. So that is to pierce the holes for your spine and for your signatures. And I'll say more about those when we get there. So that's really important. You need a needle, a bookbinding needle. Again, Janie has a selection pack on her website, because there are different needles for different kinds of stitching. You will need a some wax thread. Now Janie doesn't do this on her website, but she does sell wax. So if you have lots of embroidery floss that you don't use a lot of, you can buy a little block of wax, beeswax from Janie. And I think, if I might be pretty sure that it's they've got some hives where Janie lives. She's got some hives. They don't do much with them. Somebody comes in and does it, and wax actually comes from either her hives, and if that's wrong, it's from local to where she lives. And then yeah, you can just use it. Trying to see if I've got my block anywhere close to hand to show you what it looks. Oh, here we go. So this is my block of beeswax. And you can see where I've run some thread through it to thread it. But you can get these on, like Amazon and things. You can get particularly these nice variegated ones. So some wax thread for sewing. So that's kind of some of your bookbinding things. I want to show you with as minimum amount of tools as possible. There are lots of other things that you can buy as you get more into your bookbinding that Janie does, but I'm trying to keep it to a minimum here if you're a beginner, so it's not kind of overwhelming with all the things you need to buy. The things I'm telling you at the moment are essential. You need them in order to be able to do your bookbinding. Okay, now this one, it's not essential, but I would say for me it's essential, because this is what helps you get to a really nice corner. Now, when I filmed the video for the A6 notebook, at that point these only came in the bundle, and I'm only talking a couple of days ago, but Janie has made the decision now that you can actually get the corner cutter, spacer cutter, whatever it's called, separately, and that's just amazing. Yours will be pink. This is a prototype, but that for me is an invaluable little tool. I am going to use some of Janie's papers. These are from the A4 Mix It Up in July pack that's going to be on Hobby Maker with the template, sorry, words, and I'm using Janie's cartridge paper, recycled cartridge paper for the signature. Now, if you're not sure what a signature is, I do a lot of junk journaling, so I tend to reuse old books in my journals and repurpose them. So this is a book. As you can see, I've started to sort of take it apart. But if I show you it to the camera, you can see these kind of little folds here like this. Each one of those is called a signature, and it's something to do with when books were all bound by hand, and the bookbinder would sign, I think, each signature to make sure they were in the right order, something like that. One other piece of equipment that I would recommend for the stitch that we're going to do, but it isn't essential. You can get away with other things, but this is like, I think it's for knitting or crocheting. I don't know whether it's what it's called. I think it might be a stitch holder, stitch counter. I don't honestly know, but there are some stitches in bookbinding that you just need something to hold a loop right at the beginning, and we're going to need to hold a loop in this. All right, so let's get going, and I can then talk about other bits as we go. So I've got my my boards here. So just to make life easy, I'm going to cut. I don't think this was a very, I have many knives. I don't think this is a very sharp one. You can see I'm not trying to get it done in one go. Just keep running your knife along. Let's see, I have got one other. Let's try this knife, see if it's any sharper. Yeah, so when you're using your knife, the pressure goes on the ruler, not on the knife. So I'm going to get my ruler lined up. Now, the other thing I do use is the lines on my board. So I'm kind of by eye getting sort of this one in line with here, and then this one in line with here. And then I know if I can line my ruler up with these two lines, and I should get a straight cut. Now, I say should, look, I've already gone off because I'm not concentrating. So nice and gently run the knife down along the metal edge. You'll feel when it comes off, okay? So we're going to do the same here. That one I can line up nicely. I reckon just about there. And then again, just as many things as it takes. If you're using really thick board, it will take more runs of the knife to cut it. But you know, if you've got thin board, if you're using like cereal box, you could probably cut it with your scissors to get a nice straight cut along that line. But it's whatever you prefer. So there's that. And we're going to go with that. Oops, put that one the wrong way. Excuse me. As I'm doing this, I'm realizing I do try and get everything ready before I start one of these videos, but sometimes when you get going, it's like, oh, I've forgotten, and there is something that I have forgotten that I want to use for this. So at some point I will be dipping away to find something, but I will let you know when that is and what it is for. Okay. There we go in. There you go. So then that's the last bit. Okay. Now I've got my boards. I just managed to move the room there. And these should now fit. See, I've cut them a bit small, but I'm not going to worry too much. It's It's not going to affect anything because these are for placement. And as long as when you do it, can you see I pulled them both to the bottom corner and to the bottom, you'll still get a nice straight even edge. Now the one thing I haven't cut is I haven't cut a spine. So if you were going to do a hard spine, you would then need to cut in there. Now that's really tricky. So a better idea. Oh, and here we go already. I'm losing bits. I need to find the spine template. Where did that go? Bear with me because that's really important. Let's say this was the actual spine template for this one. You would put it onto a piece of card, draw that and draw around it and cut out. It's a lot better to do that than it is to do it trying to do it on the inside like here, because as I said, these bits move. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, because I need to find that spine template and I need to find the other little thing that I need, what I'm going to do is I will sort of be back in a sec. Literally, you'll see me, I'll disappear and I will be back. Right, I'm back. I found the little spine template, and what I went to get is a little bit of this is just an offcut of cotton fabric, which we'll need in a little bit. So we've got our boards cut, and I did say to you that if you wanted a hard spine, then you would need to cut the spine as well. So in this case, you would put it on your card, draw around it, and you would have your spine. If you want to see how to do the hard spine, the video for the A6 one shows how to do the hard spine. So this whole kind of process is the same. Now, we still need this bit, and we're going to need to, we're going to cover it with paper. You could, as I said, you could use fabric, you do it the same way. You need to fit the whole of the template onto whatever it is you're going to cover the boards with, because this here gives enough width to fold over onto the board. So obviously you've got the boards there, and then that will fold over, so you get a nice sort of look. If I show you just show you on the A6 one. This is what you end up with. I mean, this is with a nice end paper in. It's all just really, you know, quite straightforward. Now, if you're using the larger template, you do need a pattern that is landscape, because you need to fit the whole of the template on it. So you do need a landscape. So if you're getting Janie's paper print packs, this one is, I think I've already said, maybe I'm not. This is the A4 Mix It Up July print pack. I did say it, going with the templates. Now I could use this one, but actually with the smaller template, you can use something that's in portrait. So I'm going to use this one, okay? And you can play around with it. Now, you don't need to worry. If I wanted to move that down, and I think I will, so I'll just show you how that it will still work. Because I don't really want that butterfly, because if I had it here, look, if I look in the corner here, I'm going to get this bit of butterfly, and I don't really want that little bit of black there. So I'm going to move it down into the corner here, okay? And I am going to just draw, oh, sticky on there. Just going to draw around. Now, what this does mean, if you've got a particular pattern paper, let's take this one back in. Let's say I didn't want these flowers. I wanted that butterfly like that. It means you can play around and you can see what's your front cover going to look like. What's your back cover going to look like? Okay, so that's a really, really nice part of that. You can actually place where you want your covers, or the paper, how you want them to cover your covers. So I'm using my guillotine because I don't always trust myself when I'm drawing lines like that. So I'm using my guillotine tapped where I drew my lines, like so. I always tend with pattern papers to mark on, even if I'm doing it right on here, I tend to mark on these white bits with Janie's papers, and you can see them where everything is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to put this on. Now, I didn't do this for the A6 one, but I don't think afterwards that it might be a good idea to do, is to actually just put a bit of tape. Well, I just realised I can't find the other bit. Let's get another bit of masking tape. Oh, look. And funny. I was just trying to rub it on my jeans to take off some of the tacking, and I found the other piece because it was still on my jeans. So I'll take that off like that. So I'm just going to put a little bit like that, just to keep it from moving around when I am going to put my things in, like so. Okay. There we go. Right. Need to glue the boards down. Now, I'm going to use, whoops, I'm just pulling it across, Janie's Originals paper bindery glue. I'm going to use this. This is available on Janie's website. I'm going to keep it down just out of view. It's a silicone mat. I like to use it for gluing. If you can see, you know, when you've it just all peels off. So, and I know this from experience, you can just wash it. A little bit of soap and water if you get it really messy like me. The other thing I use, I know Janie uses a brush. I like a silicone spatula. Again, you can get this on Janie's website. It's my preference. So it's a case of which you prefer. So I've got the board, and we're going to use the paper bindery glue, and we're going to put the glue. This is nothing to do with Janie's glue. There was a particularly bad live of me doing, I'm terrible with remembering to put lids on glues. I am awful. And yeah, I get in a bit of a mucky mess with glue. So I forget to put lids on. This is what happens when you don't put lids on. It's nothing to do with Janie's glue. If you do what she tells you to do, that doesn't happen. So anyway, there we go. So I'm going to just put a lot of glue onto the board, and I'm going to do this. You'll just be able to see. I just want to keep this in shot. So I'm just spreading the glue. I've probably got a little bit too much on here. Spreading the glue out, and then I'm going to fit it in. Now remember I said that my boards were a little bit, so I'm pushing them to this bottom corner. Whoops. And remember to try and keep that paper nice and straight. Okay. And then I'm going to do the other one, and then I want to turn it over. I want to be fairly quick because I want to turn this paper over to be able to smooth out any bubbles before it sticks too much. And I think again I put too much glue on. This is my problem. Janie has a fit when she sees me using glue. So and this is why I like to use the silica mat, because it means that I don't get myself in too much of a mess. And I'm pulling that up now. I'm just going to move the silica mat to the side, and I'm going to turn this over and get my bone folder. Right, okay. I don't know what happened to the other one, but I'm going to use this one. If you can, if you're smoothing it down, sort of go from the edge, from the middle towards the outer of the boards. Okay. And you know that it's nice and flat. Now, there it is, hiding under there. Lid on, otherwise we're going to have the same problem. Okay, now, this is a corner cutting guide. And what it does is it sits nice and snugly. It's a right angle, and it sits on the right angle of your book cover, your board. And you can do this two ways. You can either draw and then go and cut it, or you can cut straight. Now, the only thing to be careful of is you don't want to be cutting into this. This is plastic, it is not metal. So a nice vertical line. You can do this a bit by eye, and I did show that on the previous video, because at that point this was only available in the bundle, and I know that for some of you it's a little bit I don't know if I can, you know, stretch to that. I don't know if I'm going to like it enough to want all the spaces and things. So oh, I've got to sort my knives out. They are not great. But you will also see on that video that what it meant was that some of the corners were not quite as good as they could be. They were absolutely fine. Don't get me wrong, they were absolutely fine. And I made the end papers, look, these bits that go here, a little bit bigger just to cover it all. But I had to make sure that it was covered, but because, you know, with this guide, can you see that there is a gap between the corner of the board and the edge of the paper, and you need that gap. If you cut it right up to the end, that's when you get the gapping. And that's why I think it's great now that this is a separate item on the website that you can buy. And I think it's, at the moment when this video was made, I think it's £2.99, which is, I think, a really, really useful £2.99. Okay, now if I was making this with a hard spine, I would have also stuck my hard spine in, but I'm not. If you want to see a hard spine, go and have a look at the previous video. I'm going to just keep it with a paper spine, but we need something in here to reinforce. Now, if you've got some bookbinding tape, but you know, as beginners, you probably haven't. If you've got, what else? If you've got muslin, I'm using, literally, this is, I use these for snippet rolls, fabric snippet rolls. This is just an ordinary cotton, but if you've got like interfacing would work. You know, it's just something that's going to reinforce the spine, so it's not just paper. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, I don't want it to be too big. I just want it to kind of fit in it. Now, I think Janie, when she does hers, she folds this in first and then puts this in. I prefer to put this in because I don't really want to see it. But that's a personal choice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of glue down there. Now this I know it says paper bindery glue, but it is absolutely perfect for fabric too. Now I've only put the glue in the middle at the moment, and I'm putting this here, and I'm going to use my foam folder, and I'm going to make sure it gets down in to those bits. It's really important. And I'm gonna it says a water-based adhesive suitable for use with porous substrate, so it will be absolutely great, or is, I know it's absolutely great with your fabrics as well. Okay, so I've done those two bits. Now I want to stick these down. Okay, like so. It is really important that you get it down into that bit. That's what helps to allow it to bend. Play around with me now, and then a bit more here. It's better that I didn't. There we go. See. Okay, so now that I've got that reinforcer on for my spine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these in now. So I always like to run a bit of glue along the edge of the board, just so that I know that it will stick. Okay. Now my glue spreader is a bit yucky, but I'm going to just flick it along there to spread the glue out, and then I'm folding it over. Okay, like so. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. This. Oops. And over. Now you can see this is where we've got the white showing, but you'll see that it won't matter. Now, I've done those two sides, and the reason that we left that little bit is because what we're going to do now, you can see there's this bit here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my bone folder to just bring that round. You see if you can see that. The way I've done it, don't focus it. Okay, there we go. So you can see it's still up there. So I'm going to push that round. And this is what gives us a nice corner. So I'm going to do that with all of my corners there. And then I'm going to, again, I do it along there. I'm not actually going to bother spreading that. And you can see this then comes over. That's my bag cutting, to make a really sharp corner. Okay, and then on this side, yeah. So that's why that corner cutting tool is great, because it helps you to be really consistent with that. Okay, so now I've got my little cover done. but we want this to look nice as well. Now, what I've just realized is I said about putting this on before this. I should have put this also, that I prefer to put this also on. That makes sense. And I know I did it on the A6 one, but what I am going to do is I'm going to put it on before I put the two sides on. So I need to cover this, and I need some paper over here. And what my babbling about just then was, I normally would prefer, and I forgot, to put the bit over the spine before I folded it in. Okay. But that said, just wondering, I'm just having a bit of a wonder here. The way you would normally do it is you would put your piece down there and then your two pieces here. So I'd cut a piece to cover that board, I'd cut a piece to cover that board, and then I'd put a piece over the spine. I'm going to have a play and see if I can do it all in one piece. Now this is me playing. This is, I think it'll work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this pretty much to the end. So, and you think, well, that's going to cover that, but I need it to go down into this spine part. This way, it doesn't matter which way we go. We're going to go that way. Let's have the floating butterflies. Cut that bit off. Set. And then I'm going to have it there. So basically, what I'm doing is I am attempting, this may not work, to do one sheet for the inside as opposed to three. Now, if you have a look at what I did on the A6 one, you'll see the three separate parts. So we're going to try like this. Now, what will happen? We might need to cut it a little bit more. What do we think? So what I'm just testing this out. So I'm laying it here. That's where I want this end to be. So I've got a little bit of this showing. I will need to score it in here. Okay. Like so. And then I will need to score it in here. I think I'm just going to trim off a little bit from that end. In fact, maybe this end, because I've got more room with that butterfly. Not this end. We're gonna go for it. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting glue in here. And there. And I am just going to make sure I spread it. I might have gone to the edge, but I'm not too worried if that will dry off. So I'm going to place this as centrally as I can, and then I'm just going to push it in to that center, because that's all that's got the glue on at the moment. And then I'm going to push that in, and I'm going to push that one in as well, like so. And then I'm going to stick this down. I'm probably going to find out the reason why you normally do it in 3 bits in a minute. But I think we might be okay. Let's try it. Let's try it. Making sure that that's definitely stuck in there, and then on there. So making sure that's definitely stuck down there, and then I'm putting glue on here. There. Okay, I'm happy with that. I've not done it like that before, but it's another option. I'm pretty sure if you were doing if you're doing a hard spine, that it would be really tricky to do. But as we're not doing a completely hard spine, and what that does for me is it hides. I don't see. I just realised that is. I need to make sure this paper is completely stuck. What it does for me is it means that I've hidden. I don't see any sort of ends. Stuck. Okay, so that's our cover. All right. Now we need to use our template spine here. If you can see, in fact, it might be easier if I show you it with the actual template itself. If I put this down, you see these two bits sit in that sort of recess, and that sits in the middle. And that's because if you have a hard spine, you need those gaps for it to be able to fold over on itself. Okay, so when you are sorting out your spine, you just need to try and centralize it, or put that in so you know that this is then sat. If I can get it right. You then know that that is actually sat in the spine properly. I'm going to take it off. Just bring it down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a little bit of the low tack tape there, and a little bit at the bottom there. Now I don't want to cover any of the holes, because we're going to pierce them now. You see all the holes. Now this template only has the option of one row, or if you like, of one signature. But there are a couple of ways you can sew this in. In fact, I can think of 3 off the top of my head. You can do a straightforward 3-hole pamphlet stitch, which is what I did with the A6 one in the previous video. You can do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. If you like to make junk journals and your pages aren't always the same size, you can do a 5-hole to make sure they're all held in. Okay, now it's really important that this has a center. It's really important that you know your center, because everything works from the center. So when you're working out your spines, if you were to work them out yourself, you need to always find the central point, so you know where your signatures are going to go and where to space everything top and bottom. So if you were doing a 3-hole pamphlet, you do the middle and the 2 ends. If you're doing a 5-hole, you would, let's check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you were doing a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, you would do in the middle of those. So you would do every other hole. So every other hole for a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, 2 ends in the middle for a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. But we're going to have a quick go at chain stitch, which looks like this. So we need to do all of the holes. So I'm going to pierce down. Now, if you have a piercing cradle, you can't use the piercing cradle for spines anyway. So you need something for spines. Packing tape not packing tape, that's no good. Packing foam, or like here, I've got 3 lots of corrugated cardboard that I use, and you shouldn't need to go through. If I when I've gone through, it's because I pressed too hard. And you just need to try and keep your awl vertical and to try and get it in the middle of those holes. So I'm just going in. That's as much as I need to do. There, 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 there. Remember, for this, I'm doing every hole. Chain stitch is a nice one to do if you've got a single signature, because then it just adds a nice sort of look to it. So I've got my holes pierced for my signature. So now we need to look at how to make get sort of papers out for the signature. Now I have used Janie's recycled cartridge paper, and when you're doing it, if you look at sort of how big it is in here, that's kind of your height. So you don't necessarily need to measure it that way, but what you do need to measure is this way, because you need it double that. So let me find my ruler. Who knows where it's gone on this table? My metal edge ruler is there. Right. So this was 7.5 centimeters. So I cut these. Sorry, I'll show that wasn't on the screen there. So that aperture is 7.5 centimeters. So I've cut my papers to 15 centimeters. The height of this, if you want to know, is, I think it looks like just over 10.5. Let's have a proper look. 10.6. So 10.6. So that's what that measurement is. Okay, so I've decided to have 7 pages, and I've already folded 5. Now if you get into your bookbinding, you might want to invest in Janie's book hooks, like a bench hook, which helps you to line up your pages really nicely when you're folding and when you're cutting the edges. But it's not essential, so we're kind of going with minimum tools here. So we're going to just fold a couple, literally fold them in half and give them a good varnish with your tool. So I only want, I've got 7 now. Okay, so 2, 4, 6. I've got 8. We're going to go with 7, not 8, but okay. So we put them inside each other like so. Now, when you put them inside each other, maybe we will go, should we go with 8? No, let's stick with 7. When you put them inside each other like this, which is what you do for a signature, and I'm using my ruler just to make sure they're all pushed in, what happens is that you get, they sort of go over. So you get, this is the edge of the top one, and then these ones poke out. Now on your book hook, you can get this all lined up nice and sort of, so you get a nice straight line, but this is the way you can do it if you don't have a book hook. So what I've done is I've lined up the bottom of my signature with one of the lines on my board, and then by eye, I've lined up the edge of this top piece with the end here, and the edge of the top piece with this end here. And then I'm lining my ruler up with that line, okay? And then I'm going to take my knife, and what I'm going to do is put all the pressure on the ruler, and then take my knife and just bring it down as many times as you need. You can see they start to come off. I just start to flick them. Okay. Remember, you're putting the pressure on the ruler and not on the knife. You just keep going as many times as you need to take all the pieces off. And then that gives you a nice edge to your papers. And the sharper your knife, the cleaner that edge is. Let's put the lid on that. Now, the next thing we need to do is to use our spine template to help us get the holes in the right position in our signature. So I'm just going to lie that down, and then by eye I'm going to go, right, I need a hole here. I don't ever put it, well actually I suppose I could, but my worry with that is I don't get the holes on the line. Okay, it's up to you if you would prefer to put it over. I'm just putting a nice dot in line with the hole, and the holes are quite generous, so you'll be there. Now, because we've cut the edges and we want to try and keep it even, it's best to try and punch your holes while you're with a signature like this, which is why a book cradle is really, really useful. And what I mean by that is this, and it would just sit in here, holding it nice and upright so that I can pierce down, because what you want is the holes to go through and come out on this edge, but it's not essential. So all we need to do is we need to make sure that we try and hold this as steady as we can up like this. Now I am going to bring it a little bit closer to me so that I can see where the holes are. All I'm going to do now is push down, and I think that's enough. I've gone through and my hole is nicely on that line. The problem if you open your signature out is that you run the risk of the holes coming through to the side of the spine. Okay, so you can see I'm pushing my holes through. If it helps at this point, turn it round, as long as you're keeping everything together. And you can see I'm not putting a lot of pressure on this to go through. Oh, maybe I need to put a little bit more. Just make sure you've gone through. But it's not loads of pressure. Okay. So you can see I've got all my holes on the spine. Okay, right. So we've now got our cover, we've got our signature, and I suppose I could have made it bigger, but we'll go with that. It will be absolutely fine. I'll tell you what, this when I do make my junk journals, I do space them out like this because it means you can then put stuff in, and this is not going to have that kind of like a gaping mouth. Do you know what I mean? Right. Anyway, so what I need to do now is I need to get some thread, and kind of, because we're doing a chain stitch, I'm going to make sure I've got enough. So I'm going to give myself, I think, 3 times the length of my signature, you know, because this will be really tricky. I think that's going to be enough to join. Okay, so I've got my my needle. I'm going to thread my thread on, and I need my little holder. Let's just see which way we are. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle through my end hole. Now the holes are quite small, okay, so providing you still got everything lined up, it should go through, but your needle will possibly make the hole bigger, which is fine. And then I'm going to go through top one on my spine. Okay, and remember we've got that nice cotton in between to hold it, to give it some strength. Now, what I need to do now is I need to come back through this hole without splitting the thread. And that's easier said than done. I can fully understand. I think I might have done it. There we go. But just take your time with that. Coming back through that hole without splitting this thread. Oh, and look what I've done. What I did is I was too busy showing you and didn't use my stitch holder. So we're going to do that again. What's the betting this time? I split the thread. Here we go. Right, so I'm going to bring that needle through, but before I pull too much, I'm going to put my little stitch holder on so that when I pull this time, keep that under there, when I pull this time, it's not going to come through and I've got a nice little bit. I'm also not going to tie this off yet because obviously this is going to be my chain stitch, so it's going to need to come down. So I'm just holding it there for the moment. So then I'm going to come out the next one, the next hole, and through there, through. Wait. Oop. Get that one in. So there. And when you want to pull tight, you pull in the direction you pull with the stitch. Don't pull too tight, otherwise you're going to have a little bit of over tension. So what I'm going to do, I'm just pulling this off a little bit, and it pulls some of this through. And I'm going to put my needle through before I take this off, so I know that I've got my stitch. So basically what I've done is I've come up through this hole, gone through that loop, and I'm going back. Am I going back through that hole? Oh, this is where I might have. I was so sure I knew what I was doing before. Am I doing that, or am I going through that one? Okay. Right. What's going to happen now is I'm going to pause the video. I'm just going to go and double check what I'm doing so that I show you right. It'll be seamless for you. I'll be back very shortly. Right, so I pretty much was just having a little bit of a panic there about what to do. So we came through from the center to the outside, went back, but making sure we kept the loop because we're going to do the chain stitch. So we've come up through the next hole, and then we're going to make sure that we don't go through the we don't split the thread, and then we're going back through again. Really important to try not to split the thread, and it is easier said than done, and I can almost guarantee that you will probably do it at some point, but it's really important to try not to. And then it is just a case of just easing these out so we can see the chain. Okay, now what will happen is I'll come up through this next one, and then I'm going, there's the loop, the orange loop, and I'm going down through it, making sure I'm not catching the thread. And now you can see that the chain is starting to appear. And we'll go back through this again. You see, I've gone through the thread there, so I'm just going to ease it back out so that I've not split that thread. it's really difficult to pull and get your tension right if you've split the thread. Okay, so we're going to go up through the next one, and then in through here. Whoops, bottom corner, and then again I'm going to pull down. So I'm getting my threads going, my chain going now. Okay, now it's quite a big chain and quite long loops because of the sizing of the spacing, should I say, sorry, of the holes. So I'm just trying to find the one that I showed you earlier, because they were close together, but I can't see it off. Oh, here we go. The holes were a bit closer together than you see. So we were getting a tighter chain. Okay, so, but we're just going to carry on down. Oh, no, I need to go back down through that one. Oh, and kind of leaving your loop like you would on a chain stitch. Okay, and I need to rethread this here. And through, then up through the next one, through. I'm trying, because I would like to keep them lying the same way. There we go, like so. There. And then as I go back through this one, I'm leaving, trying to leave my loop for the next. Yeah. And then up through this one, through that loop. Oh, double thread there. Okay. And then back through that one, leaving the loop. Okay. So leave that loop so that then I come up to the next one. Oh, this is my fingers, not the board. I'm struggling a little with my hands today, so it comes through like that. I'm going to go back and give them these all a little pull in a minute to so I'm going to go back through, leaving my loop up through the next one here. My loop's coming a little bit down there. I'll catch it. And through my loop, like so, and then back through. So you leave the loop, come up through this one, in through the loop, and there isn't a loop to do here, so we're just going to go straight back in there. Okay, so before I tie anything, I'm just going to go through and just make sure that everything is pulled tight. I think, yeah, some of them are looser than others. This is one that will take a little bit of, if you're a good sort of you're into your stitching and you're really good at your chain stitch, then you probably won't have as much trouble as I am, because I am not great at hand sewing. I'm just going to fiddle around and pull these until my loops are sitting nicely, and then my let's pull this one. It's good because I might have just gone through my thread. There we go. Pull that one. There. I think I'd broken through my thread there. So there is my chain stitch. So not the best chain stitch, but it gives you an idea that you don't just have to do a pamphlet stitch. So and I'm going to have a practice of doing this. So what I'm doing here now is I'm just rethreading the end so that I could get a loop there, so that I can just tie this end off now. That's all I'm doing. If you're looking at this and thinking, oh, that's far too complicated, what I suggest you do is you follow up until where I pierce the spine, and instead you do, oh, I think I said on there, the 3 holes, this one, the middle one, and this one, on both the signature and the spine, and then go and have a look at the A6 video as to how you then just do your nice simple 3-hole pamphlet stitch. Okay, because what I don't want to do with having done this is to have put you off, because this is just something else you can do, but it's not essential. Okay, so there is my now it's wanting to gape, which is fine. What I would do, and sometimes I think maybe it's because I've got all of this pulled too tight, who knows. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about that, because what I might do, what I would do is to just trying to look on my shelf to find it, is to get some sari ribbon, which you can get from Janie. I'm trying to find where my sari ribbon is. I think it's falling off my shelf. Right, so all I'm doing is I'm having a look in my little sari ribbon box, and I think I'd go for that. And I would, if I was giving this to someone, I would always tie my journals like this. But I would tie it like this, and if you leave it like that for a while, it will stop its gaping. If that makes sense. It's like I'm trying to think of a comparison. But if you tie it like this and just leave it like this for a while, it will get the muscle memory if that's where the paper is supposed to be, and it will sit like that. So I'm hoping, despite the little barnacle there with my chain stitch, that you can see how simple it is to construct a book. What I might do at some point is just to go back and do this again, but using the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, because I really am hoping I've not put anybody off. But that's how to use a template, and I chose in this case to use a chain stitch binding. Thank you for joining me. I won't probably be able to do any videos for a little while because I'm off on my holidays, but when I come back, depends what Janie's up to by then, I will make sure that I get some more videos for these templates done, and also for the spacers, for those of you that are into creating your own. And yeah, okay, thank you for joining me, and I will hope to see you again soon. Bye.